You don't know my story. You don't know the things that I've been through. Trials, testimonies. The pain that I have had to suffer through. You don't know my story. My story. And yes, I know that song does not go like that, but that is my story to a beautiful melody. And it is a song I've grown up over the years to listen to. I suggest, if you never heard of it, I played a clip on it on one of my shorts. Go listen to the whole song. That was a song that really, I found a lot of conviction within myself. It was something that when I was sitting in church and I was struggling with forgiveness, that God touched my heart. And although I was serving the Lord at the time, there was a big part of me I did not give up. And that was my lack of forgiving other people. The pastor, I went to the altar and I was praying and not even telling the pastor what was going on. It was as if he read me like a book. He said, you have to get over this. You'll never move forward until you learn to forgive. Of course, that thing broke me down at that altar. You hear me? And it was the seed that was planted inside me that would later change my course of how I viewed things and how I looked at people's perspective and how I viewed myself. You don't know my story. I share a little bit of it on here from time to time, and some of it I have literally taken off, unlisted, and gone. So if you had the little share link, you got it, because it ain't gone, it's still there. But I've shared with you how I struggle sometimes opening up when it comes to this. But in my years of healing, I've came to understand that we don't go through things for ourselves, but for others and for people that we will come in contact throughout our lives, and people that we may never see but will hear our message or hear our story. And therefore, it needs to be told. Because how can one hear it if it's never told? A lot of people have perceptions of things that aren't even true. But because they're the ones that perceive it, to them, it's the truth, even when it's not. That's the power of perception. Because perception is seen through each of our eyes individually. We can all see the same thing and conclude a different story. Interpret a different meaning. So there's always different sides of stories. There's truth that matters. There's one side and there's the other side. And one thing about the truth, no matter how many lies get thrown into the truth and constantly change, the truth will never change. It will stay consistent, no matter how many times it's told. Now, that's not to say even if, they skipped something or they missed something, But the narrative will always be the same. Because it's the truth. Now, some people live in worlds where their lies become their truth because they believed them and told them for so long. But it really wasn't the truth at all. But because they could present the lie and had no kickback from it, no one to tell another version, that was the truth. Then there's some people that will have all the facts in the world staring them dead in their face and still call it a lie. Because I will always say and stand on, a lie is more entertaining than the truth. Therefore, a lie is more believable than the truth. I remember just recently, I was in the car with my daughter one night and we was going to the grocery store. She said, "Mama, I always looked up to you." I said, "Yeah?" "Yeah." She said, "Why wouldn't I look up to you, Mama? You the strongest woman I know." I said, "What you mean I'm strong? I'm weak. Girl, I'm old." Now I knew what she was saying. I just wanted to hear what she was getting ready to tell me. She said, "You're strong, Mom. I wish I was like you." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "You don't take no mess from nobody." I said, "And that's what makes me strong?" "Yes, ma'am. Because I can't do that. I can't tell a person how I feel. Or if I try, nobody understands." And I told her, "Thank you. But it couldn't be farther from the truth. Because I'm not as strong as you think I am. And there has been times I have bowed down and said nothing. And that's what carries a heavy burden on my heart. Because for a lot of my life as a young adult, I sheltered my children from a lot of stuff. One, because a child shouldn't have to go through that because they're kids. They shouldn't have to, even if their situation makes them go through it, that don't mean they have to know why they're going through it. Or you can, for their perception, make it seem like it's better than what it really is. Now that was a good thing on one side and a bad thing for another. Because in doing that, I allowed myself to have things said about me that wasn't true. People's perception to think one thing, and then when I got fed up, I let you know what really was happening. So to some, it would have been, "You're just saying that because you're mad." Nah, I'm saying it because it's true. It's just coincidentally right now, I'm pissed off. And see, that's one thing about me. I am blatantly honest. I'm very honest. Before I tell you a lie, I won't tell you nothing at all. But sometimes silence will create a lie. because you know the truth. So when my daughter was telling me these things, kind of hit me when she said it, because I already knew where she was going with it. Because the conversation prior to her saying that was how did you do this, Mama? Tell me, how did you do that? How did you go through this? And how did you go through that? And what she was saying was not about the things where a single mother had to go through. She was asking, how did you go through this? Because it reminds her of what she's currently going through now. And she was trying to relate to it in the best, simplest terms as possible. Because this particular daughter, she's my third child. And she has Asperger's syndrome. She is on the autistic scale. And I've shared a little bit of her story about how I came to know she was autistic, because I did not know that right off the bat. I did not. I didn't find out she was autistic until after my second divorce. And some things just wasn't making sense or adding up as to why she's not doing this or why she's not doing that. And really paying attention, because there were some things where I just thought because she was biracial and her father taught her a different language that maybe she just didn't understand. And so she equated different things with other stuff. At the time of her diagnosis, she was over 10 years old. And that was a hard pill for me to swallow as her mother. Because to be honest with you, I went through a denial with that. I didn't want to accept that. No, my child's not. And being blindsided by some things, because some things she did, you would think she was a freaking genius. How did she do this? But then other things she did you question what was going on. Well, I found out I was given a horrible tale of she may never really, because of her comprehension and her understanding and how she perceived things, she may never, experience life like most people experience life. She may always need assistance. She may always need help. She may always have a difficult time when it comes to life and school. And so after I got over my denial, but I'm part of me is glad I did go through that denial, because it was in that denial that I found the strength to accept the truth. But in my denial, I thought of ways to help her so she could learn. And I drilled in her head, you're just different. I don't care what those people told you. In that message, although I was accepting of the fact, it resonated throughout her life. And so, where others told her she can't, I told her she could. When others was willing to just blow her off, no, we're going to figure a way out and we're going to understand how we can get around this situation. And what I learned about her was she loved to sing. And the girl sung like an angel. In fact, when people actually heard her sing, they was blown away by her voice. Everybody, from her teachers to people who was trying to get me to sign her up under contracts for the beat in the entertainment world, I did not want to exploit my child like that. And then if she decided she wanted to do it, it would be under her own terms. I couldn't do it. Because all y'all saw was this beautiful girl with this angelic voice and how you can capitalize off of it. I saw my child who would potentially could be taken advantage of, manipulated. And I was going to protect her at all costs, along with all my other children. My oldest is 30 years old. And I will protect her like she is the baby that she has now. And from her on down. That's the only way anybody can truly get to me. It's through them. Whether it's they're personally attacking my children or they're attacking me through my children, or they're planting seeds in people's heads. And that's why I said a lot of stuff I did allow to be said and done. I said nothing. Because I didn't care. At one point I did. Used to say a whole bunch of stuff. And my mouth and my attitude was a bit reckless. I can admit to that. But I got to a point where I said, what am I arguing with these crazy behind folks for? I know what's the truth. And eventually they will too. I didn't come to that conclusion on my own though, y'all. There was just little seeds that was being planted in my life and in my heart. And that particular message that humbled me as to, you don't have to say this or you don't have to say that, came from a person that said this and said that all the time. But God used her to get to me. Because although I think I snapped back, who the heck are you to talk about somebody, right? It still resonated and it hit and it blossomed and it grew. And I would find myself slowly over time when I would do stuff and say stuff, I would reflect and say, you not right, even though they're wrong. And it constantly humbled me. You know, I've been called a lot of things in my life. But I've learned it ain't what you're called, it's what you answer to. And then it's what not only you answer to, but what you believe for yourself. Because people can say and do all kind of things to you, at you. But if you don't believe them, guess what? They roll off. So then people start finding other ways to get at you. And usually those ways are through the ones you love. So you could attack me all day long. But the moment you attack one of my babies, and I have adopted a few babies that ain't my own, whether it was from my son-in-laws to my children I claim that ain't mine. So I got a lot of babies, y'all. So if you attack any one of those babies, and especially the ones that I birthed, and then they birthed, you gonna have some problems on your hands. Because see, that's my trigger, and I know that. And I know sometimes I allow people to use that trigger to get at me. Over the years, I developed another trigger, and that was through loss. And now it's even harder to fight because the end result is, in the end, she's still gone. So that's a trigger I'm still working on. I've been called a drunk that don't drink at all. The strongest thing I drink is a Coca-Cola and some tea. I've been called a crackhead that don't smoke at all. Absolutely nothing. Never tried weed in my life. In fact, one of my bosses was like, girl, you are lying. No, I'm not. I'm not gonna kill myself. I've been called a crackhead that never smoked in her life. And in fact, if I walk into some smoke, I'm going to almost kill over because I can't breathe. And that's just the red up. I tell people, don't smoke around me, please, please. Especially now in my older age. Sometimes you got to laugh, not to cry. I've been called a sorry piece of excuse for a mother. Now this one always kind of triggered me throughout the years because I'm like, how the H-E-double-I-S niggas am I sorry? And I'm the only one taking care of. Right? Oh, yeah. But I've had ups and I have downs in my life. It was never the times I was up that I was ever called a sorry piece of anything. It was the times that I was down and needed help. And I reached out and nobody offered it. And I had to figure out other ways to make that work on my own. So whether it was overworking and I'm not harder being at home because it was just me, or going out there to get it any way I can outside of selling my body and doing something illegal. But every last one of them that spoke on me never offered a hand of help. And that was the tricky part. And a lot of times it was very close family members. And I mean very close family members. To where you would never thought that's what they were saying behind your back. But you had a feeling that's what it was. And then it was confirmed because people would tell you stuff you never said anything to. How did you know that? But instead of telling the truth and what it really was, they left out key parts to make you look bad. So I dealt with that. But I think those times prepared me for what I was getting ready to go through or was going through at the same time. As the one who called me the most stuff in my life. And that was my ex. After we wasn't together. It didn't happen while we was together because bro, nobody play that. He was the one who said, I was a drunk. I was a crackhead that lived in a ran down crack house. But yet I'm a person that is very particular about where I live, how I keep my stuff. That would never happen. Before I go stay in a crack house, I'll go sleep in a car that I know is clean. Before I sleep in a crack house, or not just a crack house, I'm even talking about you just the ran down slum projects. I'm not even going to do that. I'll go stay in a hotel, a very expensive one. That wasn't always wise, and I'm gonna tell you I have done it. But it ain't always wise. Sometimes you shell out some crazy behind money, given my situation. And they never say this to your face. You just hear it. Where you heard that from? When did you talk to that person? And then when you get in a heated argument, they splurt it out. Okay, so now I know you did say it. Let me read you. All because they are the ones who are doing everything they're claiming you are. Minus the crackhead thing, because I don't know if the person was a crackhead or not. I do know they're drunk and they smoke. I do know there was a sorry, poor excuse for a father and a man. But the projection was something serious. And I even found out one new one that I ain't never heard of in almost 20 something years of being intertwined with this individual throughout our life. You ruined our marriage because you cheated with, God rest his soul, my older 2 kids' father. I did. The only time I ever slept with that man, or the last time I slept with that man, should I say, was when I conceived our second child. I never been back with him ever again in my life. And God rest his soul, if he was here, he would tell you, bruh, you're lying. And no, she hasn't. But in his mind, I guess he felt that way because his family was so close to me and everybody knew me and everybody respected me. From every woman he had in his life to every child he ever had. And by the way, he had 12. After, we're totaling my 2 because he got 12. You put my 2 in there, it'll be 10. So after the fact, he had already had 10 more. What am I going to do with this man that I'm no longer with and have absolutely nothing but love as my kid's father? And that's it. When I say love, I have love for my ex-husband still because he is my ex-husband / husband and kid's father. 4, 5, 1 in heaven, father. But I'm not messing with him either. And haven't messed with him since my son, who is now about to be 20 years old. So I guess the rumors can be I'm messing with you too, right? Because I will still have love for you on those levels of being my child father. And although you piss me off, I'm not going to let nobody just disrespect you if you're not wrong.